Good morning, I'm Connie Casson. I'm chair of the Friends of Westfair Committee. I'm so excited to be back here again and to share our progress on the capital campaign. So last year we showed you what was possible, and we've made a ton of progress in part with the folks who are around our tables today and lots of others. So we wanted to show you where we are and what's happening these days. So Westfair is a nonprofit and operates this 80-acre campus. It was started in 1974 by a nonprofit board, and it's been driven by volunteers the whole time. So lots of people on boards, on committees, helping out on the week of Westfair and during many other events that happen on the grounds each year. In 2018, the board had an offer for a new building that they couldn't accept because we didn't have power capacity, which led to one of those, like, if you buy a moose a muffin kind of stories. Well, if we're gonna do power, then we better do water. If we're gonna do water, then let's look around and learn from the best about what facilities are really working on campuses like ours. We did a survey of about 300 people. We had interviews with a bunch of people who know a lot more about fairs and modern entertainment than the board does. And we had focus groups with young people who shared their vision. And this place was 15 years old when I was a 4-H'er. The kids of today think they're a part of a real historic legacy. And I was just so charmed by that. This is something that's always been here. And so to make sure that there's always something here was part of our plan. So we realized that our facilities are outdated, that power, water, security, technology were insufficient to hold the kinds of events that we wanted to have, that we didn't have flexible buildings that could host events for 4 seasons, and that we didn't have accessible facilities for everything from strollers to walkers. There's a lot of gravel around this place. There's a lot of long pathways, and there's no paved parking. There's no family restrooms. There's no air conditioning. So on a morning like this, we're all right, but 90% of other fair days, it can be really charming and rustic and somewhat miserable on this hilltop. So making sure that we have a space that's flexible, appealing, and customizable for all the kinds of events that we want to have was our goal. We've had lots of partners in this work, and I'd love to invite Brenda Mainwaring, President and CEO of the Iowa West Foundation, to tell us about their partnership with Westfair.
Good morning, everybody. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here this morning. Super glad that it's this week and it wasn't last week. So Westfair has always been present for the communities that it serves. When Council Bluffs wanted to secure one of the state's very first casino licenses, it was Westfair that stepped up and made it possible. This board used its nonprofit status to provide a bridge for the creation of Iowa West. And while the Iowa West origin story is very closely linked to Westfair, that is not the reason we're supporting the project. We came in with a lead gift of $2.5 million, and we just recently announced a challenge gift, a matching gift of an additional $2 million. There's a lot of reasons for why we're doing that. We're supporting it because Westfair helps build communities where families love to live. And that is the core mission of the Iowa West Foundation. You know, Midwesterners define ourselves by our ties to the land. Even though a lot of us live in towns and cities now, our heart is still in the land. We still think we're sodbusters, right? No matter where we live. That is our common heritage. That's a bond that keeps our community strong. And in a world that is increasingly isolated, we need whatever common bonds we can find. The land, our agricultural heritage, our rural sensibilities. These are the things that give us a common sense of history. And that is what Westfair is all about. So the Iowa West Foundation believes that a sense of belonging and shared purpose are central to healthy communities. We support the people and the organizations in our region who are creating communities by building connections. And that's what happens at Westfair. So at this time of year, Westfair is home to fair families and the fair community. And those relationships that are built at Fair last a lifetime, as Connie can attest, and they really strengthen our communities. And with a new facility, Westfair will have the capacity and the resources to build those connections and that sense of community year-round, with sporting events, with educational activities. Honestly, the opportunities are almost limitless for what can be conducted here. You know, when the Iowa West Foundation board and staff reviewed the request from Westfair, we individually sort of recognized all the ties that we each have to this place, the personal ties that shaped us. And so that example of our team, our board, and our staff, you can find that example all over the county. Westfair has another really important and very unique purpose. Westfair creates leaders. 4-H and other ag programs create leaders through discipline, through hard work, through hands-on connections with living things that kind of demand your entire focus. The kids competing here this week are going to be the future leaders of our community. What if more kids could have access to those opportunities? What kind of leaders could we build for our community? So the Iowa West Foundation is supporting the Spirit of Westfair to help give future generations a place to grow and learn. A place that shows them that they matter, that they belong, that we understand that they are our future, and that we care enough to help them build the future by investing in them. I am incredibly fortunate to be able to help direct resources to important projects like this, the Spirit of Westfair. But this project matters to me personally as well. My husband Brian and I have made a personal investment in the Spirit of Westfair, and many of you who've seen Connie speak before, which is everyone in this room, have heard Connie talk about her why. And so she asked me if I would talk about my personal why. I speak from the heart about 4-H and farm families because those are my roots. These are my parents, Jim Sutherland and Janet Doty Sutherland. They left their family farms in Kansas. You can see my mom up there is Kansas State Fair. They left their family farms in Kansas not too long after these photos were taken, when they were still just kids in their early 20s, and they came here to Council Bluffs to be teachers. And everybody in this room knows you can leave the farm, but the farm does not leave you. There were a lot of memories that were formed on those wheat fields in Kansas. So the personal gift that Brian and I made to the project honors the legacy of my parents, my grandparents. It honors their hard work, their values, their commitment to build a better life for my sister and me. And now it is our turn to follow the path laid by the generations who came before us. It is our turn to make a commitment to build a future for the generations who follow. I know that almost everybody in this room probably has made a commitment to this campaign. I hope that you will each support the Spirit of Westfair at whatever level is meaningful to each of you, because together we will create a future that the past can be proud of. So thank you for being here this morning, and thank you for allowing me to share my why.
I knew the what, but I didn't know the why. So thanks for your perspective, Brenda, and for all your coaching and guidance and helping us make this happen. We have some new visions for our fairgrounds, so this will be the unveiling of some new images. We have talked about infrastructure. We have talked about an education and expo building, and our why is the rooted in agriculture, focused on youth, and connecting community to serve this region 365 days a year. So with that, we've got some updated looks and an updated layout for our campus. What you'll notice in V2 here is the same ag-inspired perspective for the education and expo building, and paved parking lots, as we talked about. We don't want to paved paradise, but we do need to put up some parking lots. And you'll see this is in a different position than what we had talked about before. So this is facing 6 here on the south, and the wagon wheel maintains in this new layout. Here's the overhead view, and that isn't a whole lot of bleachers over here to the west. It's how we take care of our water and wastewater systems. So that's part of what drove this, but we think there's a lot of advantages to this layout of the plan. We get to maintain the buildings that exist, as well as having better frontage on Highway 6, and it's an easier in and out for all the events that can happen here. So not huge changes, but one meaningful one. And we envision this entry space where people will interact, some landing space with the donor wall, with some public art, with a history perspective about why we're here and who made this happen. But the same functions that we talked about inside. This is built for the county fair, and being able to have our show ring and most of our stalling in the expo building side of things was our North Star for making sure that this building would meet our needs. This is the Jim and Sherry Baldonado Arena. We'd love to thank them for their big gift last year and for being with us this morning. Thanks to Sarah as well. This community commons is going to be named for Baumgars. They just made an announcement in the last couple weeks that they want to invest in this space that will be where we tell our story and where people meet across all their purposes. And today we're at $8 million towards our $10 million goal. So a year ago this time we were at half that. So it's really amazing of the progress that we've made. We have a couple announcements that are just coming together. One is TS Bank has made a contribution. We have an investment from the Mid-American Energy Foundation, and that one's brand new. We also will have Avela Bank that comes out. So things are rolling in the best of possible ways. It's really great. We're preparing for an application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority as well for one of their big grants. So with that, we've really engaged with all of our communities. So City of Council Bluffs, thanks Mayor Shudak. City of McClelland, I saw Mayor Kai. There he is. And Underwood, Minden, Crescent, Trainer, Neola. So all these communities have heard the pitch and given a vote of support to make it happen with us, as well as Iowa Western, Iowa West, Community Foundation for Western Iowa, Southwest Iowa Foundation, and many others to help us put together the pitch that will get us across the finish line. So great progress. We're super proud. And we have an effort that's starting during fair this week. So because we'll be relocating the building, we'll need a new flag plaza. And in honor of the country's 250th birthday, we're trying to get 250 unique donors to help us raise the flags on our fairgrounds. So with that, we're creating hopefully a wall full of flags over here on the commercial building. But we want people to be involved, and this is all subject to the match with the Iowa West Foundation. So that's our effort during fair this year. Timing is one of the questions we get asked a lot. So should we have success in achieving this $10 million goal, we would break ground this fall on infrastructure. We would break ground in the spring on the expo building side of a new facility. We would then go to the education side, which has that Baumgars Community Commons and classrooms, conference rooms, and some office space. So our goal is to have this ready for Fair of 27. Don't know that all of it will be ready for Fair of 27. We got to raise some more money, but we're at a pace that we can start to actually plan instead of hope. We announced this in the context of doing 3 phases, infrastructure and the expo building being number 1, amphitheater being number 2, and arena being number 3. We haven't taken our eye off the long game at all. And in fact, we're working with a market consultant about if we were to make upgrades to the 30-year-old amphitheater, what would that look like? How much would we have to do? What kind of shows would be a good fit for us given the market? So we're doing our homework to make sure that we plan phase 2 in a smart way. Phase 3 is kind of a twinkle in our eye at this point, but the plan is still the long game. So just wanted to provide an update on that front. Many of the faces I'm looking at have already made a commitment, have given in lots of different ways to this place. I'm looking at Kelby and Farm Bureau as well. But there's flexible ways, and one of the questions I get most is, can we do multi-year gifts? And the answer is yes. We can talk about this at length, but there's lots of ways to make gifts to this place if that's in your plan. I couldn't do this without crediting the people who have been around the conference tables with me. So the Friends of Westfair is a committee to the board, and that has met monthly in the basement of American National Bank for 3 years so far, and lots of Zooms. So we'd love to have these folks stand up. We're here because of the generations of vision and service and the love that sits in this room. So thanks very much for being here and sharing our progress.